supply shock based on XRP ledger ecosystem dynamics in conjunction with expected demand increase as time passes. And I have to note, Wisdom Tree isn't some fringe crypto outfit, okay, playing with the magic internet monies. No. No, they manage over $130 billion in global assets. They've been around since 1985. They've built up some serious credibility running ETFs and pushing into digital assets. So you've probably heard of them before. So keeping that in mind, I will just say, when they publish something saying XRP supply dynamics are worth watching, it's not just hype. It signals real institutional interest. And so the post on your screen here was shared by XRP community member Smoke, highlighting a page from a PDF from Wisdom Tree, which I don't remember seeing, but this is actually published in November of last year. I don't know that it was heavily circulated. There's a possibility I just missed it. I can't see everything. But you know, he wrote here, Wisdom Tree, there will be a supply shock for XRP before Bitcoin. Quote, Bitcoin should reach its max supply of 21 million units in approximately 2140, and XRP should reach its max supply in the next few years, end quote. And so it's not the case that Wisdom Tree literally said supply shock. He added that, but I agree with that. That is true. Like what will happen, and I'm going to illustrate why. And in fact, so I've got the documents here. There's one from November, and actually there's another really interesting one from December of last year that I might delve into just to highlight the degree to which Wisdom Tree obviously sees what's going on with XRP and the writings on the wall. Like this thing's just going to rocket from here. They get it. But for now, I just want to spend a few minutes. That'll be the sole purpose of this video, and then I can delve in more if there's interest in this in a separate video. But I just want to explain why it takes very little money flowing in to get XRP price to rocket. And so this idea of there being an impending XRP supply shock, like that's real. That's a very real thing. I firmly believe that is indeed the case. And you're sitting here looking at XRP, $2.98 with a market cap at $178 billion. Folks, that ain't nothing, okay? It's going to be worth way, way, way more in the future, okay? I mean, so imagine a moment in the not-so-distant future where XRP holders wake up to headlines that institutional money is flowing in at a pace no one thought possible. And suddenly, everyone realizes there simply isn't enough XRP on the market to meet the demand. That's the essence of a supply shock. So let's look at the numbers. The total maximum supply of XRP is 100 billion. And of course, you know, there's a certain amount that's burnt with every single transaction. So that's why like the max, you can look at max and total supply here, I'll show you. The max supply is 100 billion. The total supply is 99.985 billion because a certain amount of XRP has been burnt there. That's the reason that is showing the way that it is. But, you know, today there's roughly like what? About almost 60 billion XRP in circulation. You know, that may sound like a lot, but, you know, here's the catch, my friends. Much of that supply is either locked up by long-term holders. Actually, I fall into that bucket. I've been holding XRP for almost 8 years. I've never sold a single XRP in my life, though I certainly intend to. So it's held, you know, it's locked up by long-term holders like me, maybe like you listening to this. It's in Ripple's. There's a certain amount, it's obviously in Ripple's escrow, you know, or simply sitting dormant. So a lot of XRP out there, and I know that the Ripple's escrow, it's not considered by Live Coin Watch, CoinMarketCap, so on and so forth to be in circulating supply, but it's out there, right? And so Ripple controls around 40 billion XRP, including what they have in escrow. And of course, they release up to 1 billion each month. But of course, historically, only a fraction actually makes it into the market. Almost all of it gets locked right back into new escrows, which means the real liquid supply entering the market each year is in the low single-digit billions. It's really not that much, folks. So, you know, let's put that into perspective. Think about this. If just one major financial institution decided to allocate $1 billion into XRP, just one institution, and let's just say for easy math, to think through this, let's just say the price was only $1. It's obviously about triple that now, but let's say the price of XRP was only $1. Well, if they're investing $1 billion, that's 1 billion XRP right there. There will only ever be 100 billion. And that would be from just one institution, a single player, could soak up nearly half of an entire year's effective new supply. And I say quote unquote new supply, I'm talking about an increase in circulating supply, but you know what I mean. You got the cut of my jib. And, if XRP is trading higher, of course, say at like $5, the same $1 billion would only buy, about 200 million XRP. So that's less than a fifth of the new annual supply. But that's still, even then, that's just one institution, one move, And remember, we're not talking about just one bank or one fund ultimately, big picture. We're talking about global liquidity providers, payment corridors, ETFs, tokenization platforms, all of this happening within the XRP ecosystem. And, Bitcoin, frankly, gives us a glimpse of what can happen. So, we're somewhere around like 19.7 million of the 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be mined that have already been mined. So we're about 19.7 million out of 21 million already. So having's reduced the trickle of new supply, yeah, but there's almost all of the Bitcoins already out there, so it doesn't really matter. The real driver of Bitcoin's explosive moves has always been demand running into a hard cap. So with XRP, the dynamic is slightly different. I mean, escrow releases are steady. They're not halving events. There's no mining, which I'm glad, because that's just clunky nonsense you actually don't need, turns out. That's been proven to be the case. But the math leads to the same conclusion. If demand spikes, there's not enough liquid XRP to go around. Let me say that again. If demand spikes, there is not enough liquid XRP to go around. Not at these prices. No, sir. So it gets even more interesting, though. Exchange liquidity, I don't know if enough people think about this, probably not, but exchange liquidity is already thin. Do you realize this? Reports suggest only a small fraction of circulating XRP is actually available for trading on exchanges at any given time. Some estimates put that at less than 10% of the circulating supply available for sale at any given moment. The rest, it's all locked away. Like, for instance, I've got my XRP. My XRP is not for sale. It exists. It's considered to be in circulating supply. You can't buy it, though. It's not for sale. I'm not selling it. So if there are roughly 60 billion XRP out there in circulating supply, maybe only 5 billion are truly accessible on the open market. And that's it. I don't think most people get this. This is why you can get these crazy price spikes, especially in market euphoria at the end of each market cycle. There's just not that much XRP out there. And at today's prices, that's just a few $1 billion of value sitting on order books worldwide. So compare that to the trillions of dollars in daily global payments and settlements, and the imbalance, I'd say, it becomes pretty obvious, right? So picture the scenario. A surge in institutional adoption combined with retail FOMO all colliding with a supply that simply can't expand. So that's when prices don't just rise gradually, they gap upward. It's like a rocket ship. That's when XRP holders see the so-called God candle that people have been waiting for. It's real. Not because of hype, not because of manipulation, but because the math of fixed supply and surging demand leaves no other option. It has to happen. So while Bitcoin halvings get all the headlines, or many of the headlines anyway, the truth is, frankly, XRP probably set up for an even more dramatic supply shock. There's just so much less money in it, and that's a good thing. It doesn't take much money flowing in to get these crazy moves to the upside, frankly. The coins are there, but they're not liquid. They're locked up, they're hoarded, they're scarce. They're scarce where it matters most, on the open market. And when real demand shows up, that scarcity could change everything. That's why price predictions of XRP being worth literally hundreds of dollars per coin are not crazy. Of course, the price won't be that high this market cycle, but it's absolutely plausible that such price levels, at the hundreds of dollars per coin, I do believe that could be reached one day. There's way more than enough money on the planet, to bid the price of XRP up that high. You just have to be patient. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.